I'm in San Diego and you're on Global TV Talk Show again. Thank you very much for being here. We have an all-star cast today, and with us right now are just a few of these people, and we're going to start doing introductions. We're live and going out across the world. So Philip Berry, in my upper left, is in Florida.
Fort
Philip,
Lauderdale.
say hi, please.
How's everybody doing?
Yeah, that's great. And joining us from Dubai, Sandrine, it's been so long since I've seen you. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And you know Philip Berry, of course.
Yes, yes.
I do. We have been in I think at least once together on another call.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Hello, Paul. Welcome.
Hi, Ed. Hi, everybody.
Okay,
Hi,
this is Paul Falcone in LA. I think you're in LA, or is it Chicago?
Chicago right now.
Ah,
But,
okay, great. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Okay, Dr. Natalie Forrest, thank you. And thanks for the intro to ASH. That worked out nicely yesterday.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Beautiful. Thank you.
that was great. So take a look at that program we did yesterday when you get a chance.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Natalie is in Hamburg. We met when she was in the Washington, D.C. area, and when I was doing live meetings. Seems like forever ago, but it was only about 3 years ago.
No, I think it was at least 5. I think it was at least 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. And so how's Hamburg doing for you?
Oh, it's great. We've got beautiful summer weather. The economy is good. Everybody's outside. People are complaining that it's too warm. Just a regular summer day.
Okay, Paul, I want you to meet Sergey. He's in Madrid. This is Paul Falcone in LA. Sergey is now a top edge consultant, helping people find their own edge and be on the cutting edge. And he'll get into that in a moment. And Paul Falcone and I have known each other a long time. He's in his own business, paulfalconehr.com. HarperCollins leadership author, bestseller of 16 books. You know, you're on mute. It's hard to know that Paul Falcone is mute. So turn your voice on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, great. Thank you.
Good. You got the number right, Ed. Thanks. Thank you.
All right. And number 17 is coming out in the fall.
spring. In the
spring. Yeah,
Mhm.
Good. Okay. Well, we'll get into that in just a moment. Paul, I want you to meet Philip Berry. He's in New York. I know you always in New York, but living in Florida now. And Philip and I have known each other a very long time, just like you and me. But on the other coast, for many years, he was global HR VP of the world with Colgate Palmolive. And Paul in the entertainment industry in LA in senior level HR. Sandrine Bardot is in Dubai. Doesn't look it right now, but she's in Dubai. And we first met in Paris in 1999 at the time that I met Philip Berry as well, when I produced a live meeting at the Le Méridien Hotel in Montparnasse in Paris. And they both were keynote speakers at that fabulous event we had. And here's Melissa in Nashville. Are you in Nashville today?
I'm in Michigan today.
In Michigan. Okay, great. So you posted that thing yesterday I saw on LinkedIn, fly fishing.
Yes.
Wow, that was cool.
Yes, I love fishing. I've been fishing with my grandpa since I was a little kid. It's
Yeah.
great for get away from corporate.
Right. So everybody, we're going to hear from Melissa in deep. She is an inventor, a geek, an AI specialist. Would you do a better job than I just did, Melissa? Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Melissa. I'm a program manager. I've been in healthcare and IT for a long time. And I definitely am a geek. I love artificial intelligence, automation, machine learning, and any new technology I can learn.
Okay. So Sergey in Madrid, being on the cutting edge now, what do you feel about, what do you think about implementing AI in your consultancy?
I think I feel about it the same way as we were implementing computers back in the 80s. It's a tool, right? And you need to understand what it is. You need to understand its advantages and limitations. You need to build the structures around that organization. So you need to implement the policies and the correct processes that are clear and understandable to everyone. You need to build competence and skills so that people know how to use AI in their day-to-day work, so that they can understand how they can deconstruct their work, what needs to be automated, what needs to go to AI, what can be dispatched to third-party laborers, and what they need to focus on, and what will be their primary focus. You need to technologically integrate AI into your architecture. And once you've thought through all of that, well, that takes leadership will, and that takes strategic insight. And for that, you need to understand the flagpoles, and you need to understand the playing field, and of course, an interest in AI. Yeah, you need to be curious. And I think that people who are not curious might feel a bit anxious or afraid about it. So I think that we need to lean into that with the perspective to learn and understand what it is, and also thinking strategically around those parameters that I've outlined.
Okay, we'll get right back to you. Sandrine, your Compensation Insider is the name of compensationinsider.com. And you've been in Dubai now, what, 20 years?
16. Oh,
16.
nearly 20. It's a long time.
Yeah, and you got at a long time ago after Paris, you got consulting gigs, and you worked in Abu Dhabi and now in Dubai, and
Yeah.
you've and been enmeshed in the people and the culture there, and you love it, right?
Yes, I do. I do. Even in the summer when I hate the place because it's way too hot. It's over 40 degrees Celsius, which I have no idea for you guys in Fahrenheit, but that's way too hot. And we have a higher percentage of humidity, often of over 60%. So the perceived temperature is 10 degrees more. Still, I love it. You know, I don't like the summer, but I love being there. Land of opportunities, truly is. So.
Okay, everybody, meet Mark Colo, good friend, and I think you're in St. George, Utah. Is that right?
I am in St. George, Utah this morning. I was happy I got my walk in this morning. I take a walk every morning, make it a goal to meet someone new. I bumped into two couples that I know quite well. The one said, "Thank you for writing that book." I said, "What book was that?" He says, "Peace with Parkinson's." And he said, "Oh yeah, that was one of my favorite books to write." And I said, "I hope you enjoyed it." He says, "Yeah, it was dynamite." You know? And I said, "I've got a second one for you." So I've dropped my second name on him. And then I said, "You might enjoy seeing a movie I made here a short while ago, which was I did a TEDx speech, a TEDx talk. And I found out for the audience here, I'm going to put a small plug in, but it's real easy to get to my talk. All you do is go on a browser like Google, and you go Mark, M-A-R-K, space, Colo, C-O-L-O, space, talk. Hit enter, and it brings my talk up. Dad, I had no idea it was that easy to get to my little speech I gave.
That must have been an AI invention.
It had to be, Ed. Had to be.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for being involved and the inspiration. In case you don't know, Mark is a Parkinson's patient for many years now, and has written 2 books, as he just said. And he's a co-founder of a charity, which I wholeheartedly support in everything that we do here. And any revenues that we take in, memberships or ad space, sponsorships, enable me to spend a lot of time and effort promoting awareness of findneurohelp.org. And that's the charity. Now, the money isn't given out willy-nilly. It goes to help what Mark calls the perimeter of hope around the Parkinson's patient. Is that right, Mark?
It is. We're very choosy who we choose to support and to endorse, for that matter. So we're very, very careful on those decisions. And a lot goes into it. The perimeter of hope are things that become immediate concerns on an individual that gets diagnosed with a chronic neurodisease. I mean, there's a myriad of things that come into the individual's mind, and it's a scary place for many people to be at. So we try and take that fear away. I call it FAD, fear, apathy, and doubt, because some people, when they get those kind of diagnoses, they gravitate toward those emotions. And so we try and combat those emotions by giving them just the opposite: support, help, and services that they couldn't receive anywhere else. We're sort of like an AFLAC type approach to it. So we actually helped a woman, I shared this before on the show, we helped a woman who had autism. She had a son who had autism, and she was having to drop out of her schooling to raise her son and work a full-time job. She couldn't go back to school. So we paid for her tuition, her schooling. We paid for her son, his tuition, his schooling. We got the two of them through their education like it was nothing practically, because we have good donors and helpful donors that will donate to us. And we forward those financial resources to these individuals, and they get help where they probably wouldn't find help anywhere else.
Wow. Well, thanks for being there, Mark. Stephen McGarry, you've recently left the WPP, a very senior global role. What do you think will be next for you?
Still trying to figure that one out. I'm not really too sure, what my next chapter is going to be. I've spent a career in mobility, relocation, total rewards, especially as it relates to people moving around the world. Would I like to stay within that kind of field? Yes, I would. I know it. It has been ingrained in memory to me at this point in time. I've tried to enhance my knowledge as it relates to, over especially the last 3 years, the remote working and the what they try to call work from anywhere, but as most of us know, you really can't work from anywhere because of the legal aspects of that. So I've been working very hard to increase my knowledge of the remote work situations and the laws that would impede people from actually wanting to work in any given jurisdiction. So I actually think next up is probably going to be more of a compliance thing than it would be the total mobility, probably something more in a total rewards kind of thing where you put the compliance issue into it. But you know what, at this point, I'm pretty good right now, and I'm just looking to see what that next chapter is going to be. And
So
sorry, Ed, if I,
yeah,
it's not a bad time in life to do a pivot. So, I'm really just exploring anything that might come about.
we have on the panel today Philip Berry, Sergey, Paul, top tier human resources. So I'd like you to be sure you exchange in the chat. Please list your email, your phone number, or whatever, to connect later, because that will be ROI coming out of the show, in addition to wonderful learnings. I want to get everybody involved here. So please be patient, or if you're just dying to say something, say, hey, Ed, and let me know, okay? Dr. Natalie Forrest, well-being is not a new thing, although everybody seems to want to talk about it. As a psychologist and a person who's doing it, experiencing shifts, relocating you and your daughter from the U.S. to Hamburg, and then fitting into society again, and and you were just back in the U.S. and now you're back in Germany. So I want you to meet Diane Devitt. Hi, Diane. Welcome to the show again.
Thank you.
Are you
Hi,
in
everyone.
Chicago? Are you in Chicago or New York?
No, I'm in Chicago right now. Yep, but I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah. Okay.
I sleep in Chicago. I sleep in Chicago and I live in New York.
Meet Paul Falcone, who has a bed in LA, but he's in Chicago today.
Nice to meet you, Diane. How are you?
Okay, that's great. So we're going to get everybody involved for sure. Diane is a media expert from last century, having to do with Broadway things, but now and for many years a professor at NYU.
Yep. Yes, and I'm actually yes. My business was as a producer with some very high level events, and what I'm about to launch in a week is an online certificate course in the business of meetings and events. So I'll be training the unaware of how to properly plan a meeting and event. So I'm excited about that. It's been a labor of love for 2 years. So
Diane and I have done talk shows for 3 years here, on and off, and it's all about media presence and being aware of this little green light that is looking at me and making sure I sit up straight and look at the light and not at you, although that's difficult. I have to look at you. So I want you to meet Melissa, AI expert. She happens to work at Deloitte, but you've also been involved in construction and real estate. Tell us just a bit about that, and then we'll get back to you after a few minutes. Oh, you're on mute.
One of my core positions that I've done is a project manager. And in those projects, I've managed construction projects to build hospitals. And I've also managed projects and worked on construction projects that worked on building skyscrapers, managing the technical portion of those projects. But for hospitals, I manage the entire portion of the project from, I say, dirt to finish.
That's highly unusual for a lady, isn't it?
Oh, so I do have some stats on this because I looked it up. So only 6% of construction are women, and 3% of construction are project managers. And out of that 3%, I make less than 1% of IT construction project managers who are women. So very
good for you. Good for you, Melissa. Get off this call and get out and show them what you can do.
Oh, that is cool. All right. This is, as you can tell, this is not scripted.
right.
So well-being, Dr. Natalie, is that going to fade away, or is everybody going to understand what to do themselves?
I actually think that it's becoming more important instead of less because of the pandemic, whether you believe in it or not, and the changes that we see. We've talked about it in one of your last shows. The way that we communicate has changed. So there's more emphasis on how do you feel, what's going on in your life. And you posted on your site also some data, how that has shifted in the last few years. So optimism is up. The concern about each other is up. So I think, and I've said that to you before, the pandemic, that time of lockdown, let's call it that, has really enabled us to stop and think and feel. So the well-being is now moving much more into everyday life, as well as also into offices, not as you have to have an EAP or you need to have a health insurance, but as would you like a plant in your office? Do we have a space where we can meet and have coffee together? So I think it has actually increased, and because the newer generations, they value themselves a bit more than we used to. So they have an easier time of saying what we generally refer to as work-life balance. They want to be able to enjoy life, and that is part of well-being, however you define.
So you introduced me to Annette last year. Hi, Annette.
Yeah.
Say hi.
Hi, great to be here again. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so your thing is love and peace in a turmoiled atmosphere, right?
Yes, exactly. And I completely agree with you, Natalie. So I just tell you a short story. It was around Christmas time and I went to a warehouse because my daughter had some household items on her wish list. And I asked an employee to show me the corner where I could find these items. And on the way to this corner, she was always lamenting. So it wasn't her compartment, and she had a bad bag and so on. And I only bought the things that I really needed very urgently, and I immediately left the shop. And sometimes later, I read in the newspaper that this company had filed for bankruptcy. And in my opinion, this is what is going to happen if employees don't love their work, because I, as a customer, I don't appreciate to shop in such a store. And there's also something else that, in my opinion, is going to happen. In Germany, at present, we have very low unemployment rates. And as far as I know, it's similar in the United States. And so what we already have is what we call a war of talents, which means that really companies are looking for young people to work at their company. And in my opinion, it will be crucial to have an atmosphere of what I call love and peace. You can also call it of appreciation in which to work. And Natalie, what you said, the young people, they are not motivated as maybe I'm a baby boomer. So most of the baby boomers are motivated by, let's say, a big car and more money, whereas Generation Z, they are more motivated by having time for the family. And in my opinion, some of the companies put a basket with fruit over there. So in order to tell them, oh, we are already doing something, in order that you have more fun. And in my opinion, that's maybe a very small first step. But what people really need is, when I talk to them, that I kind of look them in the eye and that I really ask you, what do you need? What service do you need? What can I do for you? It's not so much about me, but it's about the customers. And yes, the baby boomers, they will kind of disappear from the market of employees. And in my opinion, the gap will really become bigger. And I also think that some of the works will be done by AI. So I also agree with everything that we already said on AI, that it's kind of the next logical step to do in the future and to be well prepared. And at the same time, really think about what we humans are unique for. And in my opinion, it's it's the emotions. It's that when we talk to each other, that we kind of feel connected. And so in my opinion, there's a lot of things that can be done and that also should be done in order to be competitive. And that's why I say peace creates value, to really, see this development and to act now and not to wait until maybe it will be too late.
Thank you, Annette. Want to introduce from Eastern England, good friend Annalisa Landa. Welcome.
Hi, sorry I was a little late joining today.
That's all right. So
it's lovely to be here.
Annalisa's been on the show a few times, and she has her own broadcast and is, well, I'm going to stop talking, Annalisa. Tell us about yourself.
Right, okay. Yes, I'm passionate about values. I talk about values a lot. I bring values into everything I do. It's my main focus, is values in coaching, values in the workplace, values in leadership, because I perceive many of the problems that we are facing today are as a result of suboptimal values in this world and not enough optimal values. So I've created a sort of a peace protocol, as it were. So I'm very much along, very much applaud what Annette was saying there. We are on a similar wavelength, but peace is an acronym that is designed to actually help leaders to maintain their peace and peace within the workplace as well, but also their peace of mind. And one of the things that I really stood out for me, just looking at some of the resources that you shared with us, Ed, for this call, was this chart here that shows that only 22% of leaders show concern for AI in the workplace. And I would have thought that that figure would be much higher, because I can see scope for there being a lot of problems down the line for workplaces, for leaders, for companies, for brands, in terms of plagiarism and possible litigation if they don't get a hold on AI and compliance and maintain a set of boundaries that clearly define what is acceptable in the workplace. Because we're talking about AI as a tool, and as a tool, it's fantastic, but it's only a matter of time before people, seeing just how much time it can save them, start to use it to their advantage, and that might not be to the advantage of the business.
Before we get to Philip Berry, the special presentation here. So Melissa, what do you have to say about that? And then I want to ask Ute the same question.
I think you all are definitely right. And the one thing I was thinking of is, how can we invent something with AI to better the well-being of employees? Since we were talking about AI and well-being, and I think diversity in AI is important. And I'm just looking at the last two ladies who were on here. You all are talking about peace and love. We need some peace and love in AI to make sure that people are using AI for the right things. So we need all different type of people creating and working and coming up with ideas in AI. And I would love to figure out, how can we better the employee's life and not take away jobs, but better worker retention by using AI. And part of that's putting values in AI.
And I would think, Sandrine, that AI experts will make a lot of money.
They will, hopefully. Look, I think it's not just AI from the technical aspect, like the engineers that are building the machine language, the machine learning and all the algorithms and so on. But as we see people who call themselves, because there is no certification as such, prompt engineers, for example, and who have been experimenting more with AI than other people, already have an advantage, and I think it's a good thing, because it's kind of more democratic than certain other types of skills that you might have to, for the time being, pay a lot of money to get them. You can get people who help you in your thinking and so on, but you can also learn by experimenting by yourself. So it's a good complement that you get some guidance, but at the same time you can experiment with the tool for yourself in the free version, for example, of Chat GPT, but also the image creation For me, for example, on my business side, I've used it both with my clients and on my business side. And I think on the business side, a lot of people have read it, but as I specialize in HR, I've experimented with some clients on how managers can give better feedback, how managers and employees can set better objectives, because not everybody has access to the big software that already have those kind of prompts that are included when you're writing, your annual objectives and negotiating them with your manager. Lots of things that you can do around data analysis. I am trying to experiment with some new ideas that I've gotten recently to help some of my the people in my trainings as well. So that's what I like about this move to AI, is that it doesn't just go for the people who are the developers, but it's also going to help the people who are the users. And it's helping to raise the capacity, the skills, and therefore often the earnings of people who are experimenting, who are doing things, and who are being a bit adventurous. But I'll come back, I don't remember who was talking, within caution, because you don't want to expose your employer's private information. So me, I specialize in salaries, I specialize in compensation and benefits. I would never say to anybody, put in there, I don't know, I'm an HR manager, I earn $42,567 to $67.5 a year in this city. Am I well paid or not? You don't want to do that because that could become public information or reused by the tool, but you can learn to ask the right questions and think right about how to do, how to get about the information and exploit it in the best way. So it's great. Opportunity.
Thank you.
One of the things I'd like to do based on the conversation that is being held, I mean, there's some really great thoughts here, and there's a thread through this that I think that all of us can tie into. And it has to do with the fact that AI is one piece of it, but the values that are important to us and that we ought to maintain and that we need in order to flourish is another part. And one of the things I started, let me put it from this perspective. Over 50 years ago, I started my career as a techie at IBM. 50 years. For those who were very good at tech business, you will understand Fortran and COBOL, those type of computer languages that we learned, and there was a seeming disruption in the workplace because of computers coming into existence. And so before I was at Procter & Gamble doing organizational change, and also Colgate-Palmolive doing global work, I was at IBM and I had a good career there for a number of years. And I also worked for Digital Equipment Corporation. And so my whole career was in technology. And as time has gone on, what I have done, and this is why people need to think about AI, not just as one particular happening, that it's a skill, it's a competency, and it's going to be one of many type of competencies that individuals will have to learn as we move through life. It's not going to just be one thing. It's not an end in it all. And the learning from it is that there are competencies that individuals need to learn. There are new jobs that will come about. All of us can think, and not all of us, but maybe half of us can think of jobs that no longer exist that used to exist before. When I used to work with a key punch machine or a verifier or a sorter, a 1309 or 1316 dispatch, those type of words are indelibly imprinted in me. And now, where it would take a whole room to do that, I could do all of that on one device. Well, this device is not going to exist in the future. And so what that means is that there are going to be new ways that we have to incorporate being, doing, living, working, coordinating, communicating with others. And so when I think about my whole topic now in working with people has been, how do you rebrand in order for you to be standpoint of your making that relevant? And that's why a number of the things that people are talking about, that is what we're talking about. How do we maintain that? How do we learn things? How do we ensure that what we are doing now is going to be relevant in the future? So that means that we have to continue to learn, unlearn, and then relearn in order to be impactful in the workplace. And it's not something that just occurs one time. It happens throughout one's life. And therefore, there's a story that we have to tell, which will have ups and downs as we continue to move through this work life. Matter of fact, I forget the word work-life balance. The fact is that it's all about life. And then it's, what do I do in order to sustain that? And that's one of the things I especially learned when I lived in Paris for a number of years, and then decided that, well, I mean, my career at Colgate, where I'm a senior VP, is very good. But when I go back to the States, I'm going to leave, and then I'm going to go off and do my own consulting, and I'm going to write my book, which is what I did, and continue to make an impact in different ways. So it's a matter of, how can you make that impact? And that's why I decided to move from New York City, which I love, and I still go back to all of the time, down to Fort Lauderdale, so I can get a little bit more sun. And speaking of sun, my two friends in Germany, right now, my son and daughter-in-law and grandkids, they are in Berlin right now because of their parents there and their in-laws. They are looking at how they can live in the States and also in Europe on a full-time basis. You know, so it's not a matter of living in one place, it's a matter of a few different places. So they're looking at also at Amsterdam and how they can be there also. So I think that that's the type of more people in organizations. When we look at the Gen X, Gen Y, and all Gen Z, they're looking at how they can be impactful in that way. And that's where I think that we need to go. And that's why what everybody is saying, there's an integration that is taking place as we begin to coalesce all of these different thoughts. I mean, I'm just soaking in all of these different comments, and I'm putting it into one way of looking at the world and at life in general. That's the contribution that I wanted to make.
Well, I want you to come back and talk in just a few minutes and talk about the 5 steps. So Ute, before we get back to Philip, what do you think of all this? This is your first time on Global TV.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating coming all these people together from different parts of the world, but basically agreeing on how things have worked out now, especially after the pandemic. So I completely agree that the work-life balance as such, it keeps integrating work and life at the moment. And I'm passionate about international communications and languages. So I have always been involved in all these intercultural topics as well. But at the end of the day, we are all humans, which brings me back to the value discussion that Annalisa also mentioned. And this, again, together with the AI, it's important because AI, I think we all agree, is here to stay. So we better deal with it. And this is something I've come across in Germany in particular, though, that AI as such is seen in a very suspicious way. So probably typically German to a certain extent, the risks are perceived way greater, way bigger than the chances are. So this is all about, it's also about a mindset thing. And this is going to be interesting to see how things develop, not only in Germany, but all over the world. So it's great being here. Thanks for having me, Ed.
Well, I was on your LinkedIn, and I love the phrase you use. I can't pronounce German, so I'm going to give it back to you. It's about joie de vivre, I can say that. But that the German word, the Freuden something.
Lebensfreude.
Yeah, I can. My tongue won't work. What does that mean?
It actually means the joy of living, just to be happy in life. Which is something where Americans have a natural tendency to. So go to a supermarket on a weekend. For example, I love shopping at Walmart. I buy my favorite peanut butter M&Ms go to pay at the cashier, you do small talk, you get your stuff wrapped up, everybody is happy-go-lucky or projects this anyway. Then try to go to a fully crowded supermarket in Germany on a Saturday, and you're lucky if you're not bitten, if you're not just thrown out because you are too slow to wrap up your stuff and things. So it's a completely different atmosphere. It's a different way of people dealing with each other. And this is what makes a big intercultural difference between the US and Germany, for example, and which is also a prime example for my favorite Lebensfreude, which just doesn't exist to that extent in the German mentality yet. And I've made it my mission actually to bring some more Lebensfreude to my fellow Germans, or try to make them understand that it's their decision to be happy in life. It's not necessarily something to do with what is happening outside of you, but it's an inside job at the end of the day.
Oh, it's fascinating. So, Paul, you've been really quiet. It's very unusual of you. So I'd like you to tell people about why you specialized in German in college.
Ah,
It's true. I have my bachelor's and my master's degree in German. And it's an interesting story, but I grew up in New York, grew up in Brooklyn. And my uncle was in the war, in World War II, and served under General Patton. And when I was a kid, my grandparents lived upstate, and we'd take these 4-hour drives. And Uncle Tony would sit in the back seat with me, and he'd tell me all the stories. And I loved history. I just loved the history. Studied German in high school in New York City. Got a scholarship to go to Germany in my junior year of high school. Still in touch with the family. When I went to UCLA, it was kind of natural. I just thought, you know what, this is what I want to study. I love the literature. I love the language. I fell in love with the country, and didn't go through with the PhD. I was thinking about that, but at the master's level, I was okay. And then I switched into the business world, knowing absolutely nothing about the business world, but I had to start somewhere. So I just jumped in. But that's the story, Ed. So it's nice of you to ask.
Paul, where did you study in you said that you studied German in Brooklyn? Where?
No, actually in high school in Manhattan. I went to Xavier High School, like 5th Avenue and 16th Street. Philip, if you know that area. So
I went to Central Commercial High School, which was on Lexington Avenue.
did you really?
There, yeah.
That's too funny. All right. Good,
you were
good.
one of our brother schools, Paul. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, so
Which one did you go to, Diane?
went to
Clara Barton.
Dominican. It was yeah. So we were allowed to go to a dance at
I was just going to
now and
say, yes, I knew some of your
maybe that's where I
cohorts.
recognize you.
That must be it.
Both of my girls went to all girls high schools in New York City as well.
Yeah, I
Oh,
want
cool.
to jump in one thing on this AI, and this is not a political statement at all. It was just something that intrigued me and interested me. But I saw a very good interview. You're going to love the two names I'm going to throw out here: Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk. But I have to say this, that the interview, if any of you saw it, was on AI. And the one thing that I took from it was, and Elon Musk and I just agreed with him, and it's something that you're all alluding to, is he just said it could be dangerous and it should be monitored, like we have the FDA for food, that there should be some kind of governance that says where you can go with it. And that's the one thing that I took with it, because just like Phil says, it's part of life. And in another 10 years, I'd love to be on this call with some of the people who laughed at us with Cobalt, Phil, and all those cards that I did and freaked out. But the thing is, I remember that statement. And also as a professor, of course, when AI came out, everybody was like, blah, 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 how, the students and how they'll be turning in their papers. It's a little bit more challenging to be a creative teacher then. The questions you ask, how you ask for the work, and it encourages more interaction. Like I had a class that was so unresponsive. I'm teaching for almost 35 years at NYU. And not last semester, that was a stellar group, but the semester before was unresponsive. I'd never in my life experienced it. I never also allowed devices in my classroom. So I went to the dollar store. I came in one day with 15 notebooks. I gave everyone a notebook and a Bic pen. And I said, no more devices for the rest of the semester. And that class changed the dynamic. The dynamics changed overnight with the interaction, with the attention, I said, take notes. It's a great way to learn. Take notes and then go transcribe them at home on your. So I think it's up to, nothing is new. It's just the way we adapt and change to the new technology. I'm sure pencils were astounding at some point.
I want to ask, well, first of all, Philip, if you don't mind me just saying to the audience here, in your time, and are you still involved with, as a trustee of the university system?
I was the vice chair of the Board of Trustees for City University for 10 years. And so I was term limited. My term ended in 4 years ago, in fact. So, and as a number of you may know, the City University system consists of 25 colleges and universities, and that is a medical school, law school, 2-year colleges, 4-year schools, and all of that. But it was interesting because being involved in that whole aspect of learning, which I really love, is and being involved with students, who are from around the world and continuing to build upon their capabilities is just a joy to see. And in fact, well, one of the things that happened, in fact, I just got, speaking of City University, undergrad, I went to Queens College, and then graduate school, I went to Columbia and also to Xavier University. I have 2 masters from there. But I just picked up at my undergrad, they gave me a 50-year alum award at the graduation ceremony, and I went there to that. So that was a kind of a joy to see. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Mark, you had your hand up.
Yeah, boy, so many thoughts moving around so quickly.
Yeah, really.
I saw a trailer just a few days ago and it scared the crap out of me, but Hollywood has that tendency to do that sometimes when they take their liberties, I guess. But it was basically what I interpreted from it was some kind of a creature was formed from AI and it crushed the planet and we were all gone. I mean, it was so dramatic. It was just so amazingly unbelievable. But as one of the speakers said here a little while ago, you have to take some of these things into consideration and really use your critical thinking skills to try and think, well, gee, where could this go? Well, where could that step go? And Philip, I like Philip's comment about, about this device is not going to be here tomorrow, right? I don't know if you can see it or not. It's going to be gone.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's going to be gone kicking and screaming, because you're going to have people that love that device. They're chained to it. They're so married to it. They're not going to want to get rid of it. So I think it's a mindset that we have to learn and create within ourselves. And my latest mantra, if you want to call it that, is adaptability proliferates possibilities. And the more adaptable you can be, the more opportunities you'll see and the more things you can accomplish. You just have to change that mindset. So anyway, that was my 2 cents, Ed.
Okay, well, here's a nickel. So, Diane, you and I have had this talk about book that you wrote and a life that you led, about what color is your event and what color is your background. Like, I've got this Tuscan burnt orange wall behind me. What does that mean? And what would you call this conversation? What color? It can't have more than one color. So what color would you label this talk show right now?
Some of you love the way Ed sets up a question for you. I mean, he really, you got to follow him. Where are you going with this? There's a couple of answers for it. So the first book I wrote is called What Color Is Your Event? And it's basically an industry resource on how to think and plan creatively when you're putting together a business function. And the whole concept of what color is what personality and what branding message, what visual impression will people get when they walk into your room? And it's not just the logistics part, it's the strategy pre, post, and on site that are involved. So I basically speak about that. And then yes, so what would I call this? I would just call this multicolored and interesting, because that's what makes the world go round, you know?
So would you call it a rainbow?
No, because that would be politically incorrect nowadays. Be careful. I would say more of a mosaic.
Mosaic. Okay.
I would say more of a mosaic. How's that, Phil? Is that good, Phil?
I love it. I love
Phil, I'm writing
that.
down all those. I worked on Park Avenue. Colgate was right down the block in P&G. I got you right here. I was a Lever Brothers girl.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Lever Brothers had a great period.
Yeah. In another lifetime, I worked for the media director. But yes, you know, but the thing is, you know, it's interesting because in my life, which I am extremely grateful for, I'm one of the originals, basically 35, 40 years in events and meetings when the industry was newly formed. And it's one of the reasons I created this certificate, because it's changing in terms of the understanding of the purpose of a gathering, that it should be deliberately planned, and it should have an outcome and a result, and it doesn't, it's not, and there's no room in people's lives. And I credit the younger people with this, because they want an agenda for the most part. They want to understand, why are you asking me to meet? We would jump in and meet and then figure out why. They want to know. And I think that's a good thing in terms of moving forward. And in terms of, you know, keeping this on the technology end, I use AI, I use ChatGPT. I think it's a great tool as a tool. And that is since the day it came out, when people panicked in the media. So one thing I always just said to people is use it as a tool. It's helped me with questions. It's helped me remind me of things that I couldn't remember. And so I think that it does have its purpose. Yeah, it does have its purpose. But Ed, no, you did a good job. And Ed, you will never listen to me about the color of that wall, ever. Ever. How many years I've been on this show, everyone? Full disclosure. How many times have we spoken about that wall? And
Every time.
every time. Okay.
But you can never forget
Sandrine
it,
is
Clive.
laughing.
Well, I took down the picture and replaced it with a stack of books I've read, and put the giraffe.
Well,
You
which is kind of questionable. We'll have to talk about that offline. Right?
I don't want it to fall.
Ed, you were getting great feedback from somebody. And I concur with everything she's saying. It's like there's a message she's delivering on two levels. There's the what she's saying, you know, and then there's the meta message. So I guarantee you not to have that again. Follow her advice.
Well, I can put my logo up there, but then I think that's overkill. So Sergey wrote a book with Angela Lane called Fair Talk, but that's all about feedback, right?
Yeah, it's about feedback. And when you give feedback to someone, the first step that we teach is why it matters. So you need to communicate to the other person why it's important. And when we coach leaders and when we give classes, the first exercises are really crafting that first part of the feedback message, where people need to write in a few sentences, okay, why you should listen to my feedback, why should I be giving you that feedback. And so many people struggle with articulating the why. And the message there is, if you can't really articulate why the person should be listening to you, maybe that's not feedback worthy. Maybe that's just your preference. And if it's so, maybe that feedback should not be given. But if there is a strong why, and it really matters for the other person's performance or career, then go ahead and proceed on to the next steps of the feedback message, which is tell me how I'm doing and tell me what to do.
Okay, talk to me and the audience here
Great point.
out there in the world about the cutting edge thing that you're talking about now in your consultancy.
I'm not so sure about the cutting edge, but I'm all about talent. I'm the talent guy. So what I want to do, I want to consult, research, and teach on the topics related to talent, and really bringing down the talent strategy down to execution and implementation, and helping people and organizations understand how the business strategy and the external context impact the way how you implement the talent objectives and how you drive it down and execute in the organizations. Why? Because the traditional ways of how we do performance management start failing us now a little bit. We talked about the war for talent. So we need to rethink our definitions of potential. We need to understand how the ESG and ED&I and social tensions and the geopolitical situation in the world are reshaping the way how we're doing talent. So lots of organizations need help and they need assistance. Sometimes it's just the conversations. Sometimes it's more than that, and going deeper and helping them and do a bit of hand holding. That's what I want to do. So that's why I've decided to go on my own, and just to make sure that I can touch as many organizations and as many people as possible.
Great. Happy to help promote what you're doing at length. In the book, Fair Talk, I mean, it was a thick book. I don't know, how did you come up with all those words to describe getting feedback?
And ChatGPT didn't exist back then. I mean, now I'm just kicking myself in the butt. We should have waited a couple of years. It would have been quicker.
So the engagement thing. And Paul Falcone is an author of 16 or 17 books, and including this thing. I have it here somewhere. Oh, here it is.
Oh, I'm honored. I'm under the giraffe. That's great.
Better you than me.
Wait, crisis, learning through crisis.
Right, leading through crisis. That's the one that'll be out in September, Ed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it's all. I have to tell you, most of his books are like, but this thing is like, it's like an AI thing, right? I mean, it's really just a précis, if you will.
Yeah, that's so. Ed had come to a dinner. I was doing a Meet the Author talk through bookstore.com, which is the organization. And I met Ed for the first time in San Diego, and they gave away a snippet.
I know
of the book.
we've known each other.
Yeah,
this way, but not
right
ever in person.
And it was so wonderful. I got a hug. I did the whole thing. I met your wife. It was beautiful. But the idea is, no, that book was just a snippet of what's to come, because the book's not officially out yet. It'll be one of those 230-page kind of books when it comes out. It'll look like the others. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Philip, would you like to do your 5-step?
Oh gosh, Ed, I was just getting ready to tell people I have to leave because it's an hour.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, please don't be. You know, we'll do that another time. And this conversation has been extremely enlightening. So so anyway, I wanted to say goodbye to everybody now, and I hope to connect with each and every one of you another time. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great
nice to meet you, Philip.
Thank you. Yes, Sandrine, compensation and benefits for relocated people. What do you think? Will relocated people be paid to achieve more while they're on assignment?
So I think that generally speaking, when somebody is sent by their company, not is asking to be sent, okay? So is chosen by the company, there's already often an expectation that either they are a high performer or high potential. So there's already kind of an expectation baked in that once they pass over the lump of adaptation to the new country, the new ways of working, the new types of relationships, and so on, that they'll be able to have a level of performance which will justify the higher cost of employing them rather than hiring somebody locally. Because let's remember that, let's say for an executive, on average, total cost of sending so let's call them an international assignee, is 2 to 3 times the annual salary of the person. So of course, the company is hoping to get something in return. It's either going to be in terms of the output, so the performance of the person while they're in the other country, or a combination of the learning that this person is doing and that the company is hoping to benefit from when they will come back to the home country or move to the next assignment. But I would like to highlight something which I think a lot of companies fail at. They're great at sending somebody out, and I've managed international mobility, so I put myself in that bucket. I've been an expat as well. Great at sending people out, terrible at bringing them back, and terrible at using those skills that they paid so much for, using them when they come back. So I used to work for very, very famous high-tech organizations. I don't want to name them because what I'm going to say is not so nice. But they sent me abroad, and when I came back, they were like, yeah, you have 3 or 6 months to find yourself a job when you come back. And I was like, what the hell? Why did you send me abroad if it's not to help me find another job when I come back? Otherwise, I'm going to be poached by somebody else who will benefit from those skills that I've developed when I was abroad, and which, by the way, is what happened. So, so that's a little bit the challenge. So I would say that companies, instead of thinking of increased performance from the people that they're sending, should be thinking of their own increased capability to use those skills, maintain the networking while the person is abroad, having career discussions while they're abroad about possibilities for the next step, including coming back, and not just tell them, hey, you're coming back in 6 months, find yourself a job in the organization because it's not our job. I mean, I don't understand why companies do that. And that's a failure. So I was interested in what Sergey was saying, because what I do, Comp & Ben, has a lot of tie into talent management. And I think that because international mobility is decked into so much technical aspects of taxation and cost of living differentials, and which housing allowance do I need to pay, and what kind of education do I provide? Do I need to give cultural training? Do I need to support the spouse? Do we transfer the 22 rare birds of the person to this other continent, and so on? I mean, again, not a real life example. I'm just imagining it. Actually, I did face that. And that they forget about how do we integrate that into managing a career over the long term to enhance that person's opportunities, but also for us to get our return on our investment on a longer period of time rather than just the 3 to 5 years that they're sent away. And that's because we don't talk enough between Comp & Ben, international mobility, and talent management to create a holistic approach to the whole process, not just the sending out and then paying for the shipment of the goods when they come back and that's finished, you know. So
Stephen.
Sorry,
You know, Sandrine, I've seen that time and time again, and it really comes down to organizations taking the time, not especially when you're talking about people like that, but also in the everyday workplace as well. Talent management. They have to learn how to manage their talent better. And I think that's what we're looking at. It's not necessarily you can't look at your employees like cogs. They aren't. You've got to be able to realize what they can do, how they can do it, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, build on their strengths, train from their weaknesses, get people back to where you can use them no matter where they are. And in your situation, what you were talking about, when somebody is going out on a traditional expatriate assignment, you know, the whole time that they are gone for that 3-year period, and I'll tell you a story about bringing people back too, but that whole time that they're on that 3-year assignment, they and the company should be working towards what's the next step. It's not your 3 years is over. We're going to bring you back. Oh, by the way, we don't have a job for you. Now, there will be a lot of companies that will say, we can't guarantee you a job, but part of the talent management process is helping them stay connected so that when they do come back, they have opportunities to step into. And that's something that companies are not doing very well. They're not. And I think one of the reasons why is because the loyalty for the company to the employee is no longer there. The quote unquote paternalistic companies that used to be around the world, there are very, very few of those anymore. You know, so I think it's all comes down to the talent management phase itself, knowing what you have and working with what you have, because it is so much more expensive to go get somebody from the outside than to actually train somebody properly from the inside and manage people properly from the inside. You know, and you know, just not being able to bring somebody back. I, in my former organization, had somebody that went to China on an expatriate assignment, had a contract that 35 years later, they were still abiding by the contract, including the annual education allowance. So we figured that we were probably paying for their grandchildren's education in China at that point in time, because there was nothing in the contract that actually said, we are going to localize you, we are going to bring you back, or these allowances will stop at X point in time. So you know, that is just an example of not being able to bring somebody back or to manage it properly. But what you were talking about, I think, is more of a total management issue.
Can I chime in here just for 1 second? Because I love what Stephen and Sandrine just said. And I know that we're emphasizing a little bit the expat and the international aspect, but recently I've talked to at least 4 people in bigger companies. They are on a contract within the company. So they were hired for a specific contract that the company has within the country that they are residing in. And those contracts are ending. And now they're being told exactly what you just said, what both of you just said. Well, your contract with this project is ending. Go find something else within the company and we can't help you. So I'm wondering if it's, you know, it's not just international, it really is the talent management and the connection between managers, leaders, and the staff at large. Not just, you know, we're sending you overseas, but here's a contract. When we have a contract and we know the contract's going to end in 2 years, we already need to plan as well, right? We need to say, okay, once the contract is over, where can we utilize your skills? And that seems to have falling a bit into the cracks as well. So I love that conversation.
So
Paul,
can I put my talent management hat on and come in with a question to Natalie, Stephen, and Sandrine?
yeah, of course, yes.
If an employee is on a contract or elsewhere in the organization, and if they create a disproportionate amount of value for the company, that is, they do great work, yeah, they leave a wow story behind them. If they are a rewarding colleague to work with, they're a delight for others. They help others, they're very nice, they're likable, and they invest in their development so that they create that value not only today, but also tomorrow. Yeah, so they have a clear line of sight of what they want to do, and they do trainings and courses, they proactively develop. Don't you think that they're visible in the organization enough for the organization to know what their next step is?
No.
You would think so.
We would hope.
Yeah, well, then Natalie and I are both saying, yeah, and I think Sandrine is saying it too. You know, you would think so, you would hope so, but perception is not reality.
I know, and as a talent manager in my global organization, I knew all my global talent, and I knew exactly who were those who were shining and those who were okay. And those who were okay, well, I'm sorry to say that, but I will not, my time and the time of my team is finite. That's why I have to prioritize, and I will prioritize the time of the team on finding the opportunities for those who deliver that extra value.
the challenge in a lot of organizations, if we're talking about expatriates, international assignees, is that they're handled in companies that have enough international assignees by a dedicated team of international mobility experts who tend to be trained on the technical aspects of international mobility, not on the career aspects, and they get lost. They out of sight, out of mind, you know, that's the reality. And I've worked in companies that were sending hundreds of people abroad every year, and I was managing the international mobility as part of my job in compensation and benefits. It is often very difficult because those people, because they're far away, they're not the responsibility of the local HR because they're never into the local reporting and everything because they're an expat. They're not the responsibility of the home-based HR because they're not here anymore. And because they're reporting to that international mobility.
If someone is a real talent, a good talent manager will be like a rash all over them.
Okay, sir.
But do you want to handle only your super top performers? Typically, the people you send abroad tend to already be top of the cream. You're not wasting 3 years of salary in 1 year on an average employee to do an exceptional work abroad. You will try to send somebody who's already good. So already that pool is supposed to be above average, theoretically.
And Sergey, you know, what on you were saying, I think you're an anomaly in that you are actually, as a talent manager, able to look at the current employees that you had, where in the organization that I just came from, the people who knew the talent of those people that worked for them were the people that they worked for. The talent people, the HRBPs, the chief people officers, the whatever you want to call it, you know, talent acquisition specialists, whatever you want to call those people within the HR community itself, they had specific jobs within HR, and the talent that they were looking at was, for the most part, when there was an open job, do we look internally? Do we look externally? And they had better understanding of external candidates than they did on what they actually had within their own building. So that's why I'm saying that, you know, you would think that that was true. However, when a job comes about, somebody says, I love the job, and their manager says, this person's a unicorn, you should look at him, but I don't want to lose him.
Paul Falcone.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. These are great conversations. I mean, we've covered 3 of the biggest swaths of content of what's going out there. When you look at the 30,000 foot view, we don't know what's going to happen with AI. All we know is it's going to change everything. So, okay, we touched on that piece. Then you look at the part that says, well, Annalisa, what you were talking about, you look at Gen Z, the 25 and under crowd. These are the most studied, it's the most studied generational cohort in world history. We know everything about them. And unfortunately, what it tells us is they are isolated, they are lonely, they are clinically depressed more than any other generation out there, which calls this need for wellness. You need to have employee well-being as a core factor for no other reason than for your young ones. And then the third issue to me is it's all about talent management. We've always come from a situation where talent acquisition was the answer. If you needed something, post a job. If you need something, call a headhunter. The talent is changing on so many different fronts, and it's not COVID. COVID kicked the door open a little bit so we can see what it's like living in a world with scarcity. But when you look at just the demographics and the labor force participation rate and everything else that's going on out there, labor scarcity is going to define us for the rest of this century. There's a great book out there. I mentioned it on the show before, Ed. It's called The Next 100 Years. And it's George Friedman. It was a New York Times bestseller. But it talks about the fact that in all industrialized countries, we're moving to a point where there's not enough human beings. And where will we recruit from? And you're starting to talk now about Africa and India, and where do we get the human capital talent? But the most important thing, the aha lesson for employers, is you have to know how to manage and grow your own, because the days of just picking up the phone and finding someone on the outside are not necessarily going to be there. That's not a solution. And the whole idea, what you're talking about, Sandrine, and you too, Stephen, I was head of international HR for Paramount Pictures. Now, we did not have a big expat program, but I'll tell you what, we didn't do a good job, because you're right. We spent the best overseas for 3 years. And then when they came back, there was nowhere to put them. for all the reasons that you said. People forgot who they were. They lost their internal network. And it's human. I understand that that's going to happen, but we've got to get better at that. So when you look at really, Ed, where these trends are going for all of us, it's AI, it's wellness, it's talent management, especially on the international front. So really interesting how it all kind of came together for this.
Yeah, Stephen, thank you very much for your willingness to share what's going on. So where is mobility going to fit into all this, Stephen?
Mobility was starting to change before the pandemic, and the pandemic just kind of kicked it in the butt. You know, there were more and more people that were realizing that they could do their job from where they were actually sitting instead of having to move to a new location, and that was starting to happen. You know, the way I've always looked at mobility within my organization is domestic mobility, especially because of the size of the organization within the United States and what we did internationally. As our domestic moves were actually lessening, our international moves were increasing. One of the reasons why is because, you know, years ago when we used to send somebody to San Francisco to run Asia, now we're sending them to Japan to run Asia. So we're branching out. Now, what was happening within the mobility is that, you know, we're talking about traditional expatriate assignments. A lot of larger organizations at this point in time are getting away from that traditional expatriate assignment. They're saying your job is now in Singapore. So you're going to go to Singapore, you're getting a local salary, you're going to pay local taxes, you are not getting a cost of living allowance. We will look at the housing because housing is so much more, but we're also going to look at it in relation to the total cost of living, meaning we're going to look at what the cost of goods are, the cost of housing are, and the cost of taxes are, to see where you are on a net basis and the increase that you're getting, to make sure that, you know, you're not going to be losing any money, but you're not getting free housing while you're there as well. You know, what I see is people actually still giving education allowances because they want their children to be educated in their primary language. But it's more one-way assignments. It's more of that than it is the traditional expatriate assignment. During COVID, one of the things that has happened is, as I mentioned before, the whole remote work situation. People just picked up and went everywhere. Now companies are starting to realize that, you know, we need people back in offices. They need to have the collaboration of their teams. They need to be able to sit with people. Clients are saying, I can't have somebody working on an account in Atlanta that's sitting in Ibiza. They need to be here. So people are calling people back to offices. But once again, because of the ability to do things remotely, the way that companies will be moving people going forward, I don't think we'll ever get back to where we were. Will the volume get there? Yes. The way that we move people and the way that we compensate them, the way we give them benefits, the way everything happens once they're there, I think that is that's where the change is going to happen. It's going to be more local to local.
So talent is an asset.
Talent is your biggest, talent is your biggest cost, and it's also your biggest asset. It's that simple.
It seems that the people who are making decisions like, you're going to go on assignment and we're going to spend $1 million, and yet I don't know whether you're going to find a job here 3 years from now. That's ridiculous.
It is. It really is. But you know, the way that my former company was doing it, and the way that I saw larger companies, especially US and UK based, that I have spoken to people in my position in those companies were doing it, is they were getting away from that 3-year rolling assignment. It was more of a, we're going to send you there, and then your next job may be here, your next job may be somewhere else, or this might be your job until you retire. That's completely up to you. But it is more local one-way assignments than it was anything else. And I'll tell you, the people that were moving, they really liked it. They really did. They didn't have to worry about what happens in 3 years. There were people that them and their family were able to get assimilated. They were able to get get situated in a place, in a community, in a school, in a lifestyle, knowing that they're not going to have to move now in 2.5 to 3 years. They were able to entrench themselves, and I think they were happier because of it.
So back to Melissa, would you go on an assignment if they promised you could fly fish?
Oh, well, hey, fly fishing in Alaska, you might have me for about a month in the summer, and then I'm coming home. I love to travel, so I've had a couple different travel jobs, and I like traveling all over the world. So I think you have to have a certain employee that would be interested in a 3-year assignment, and your job is sort of kaput, and that may be more of a contractor type employee who are ready to take that 3-year assignment, and then maybe they're going to look for their next 3-year assignment in Germany. So I think you have to, it goes back to have an employee that's willing to change.
Yeah, thank you. Annette.
I think that things are really will be changing. We have numbers in Germany, so now I can only talk for Germany. How many millions of employees will be missing in the next years? And if people are really, companies are really looking for people or for persons, for employees, I think that they will also have to bear in mind that they had sent other people abroad. And nowadays in Germany, we are really thinking about kind of to activate moms who are not presently working because they are at home taking care of their children. We also have discussions about bringing back people who have already retired, maybe only on a part-time basis. So I have the impression that at least over here, everybody's looking for really qualified people and qualified stuff. And therefore, I think that what we've heard, and I agree with you that this was in the past, but I'm quite convinced that this can't be the future, because those people who had been abroad, they are so qualified. And I've been in this sector as well, coaching international project teams. And I know what kind of value they have and they will have for the company. And even though maybe they won't find a job in their old company, I'm really convinced that it will be easy for them to find a job in another company, because in my opinion, I'm really convinced that this will really kind of increase that every company will be happy to really find talented and skilled employees.
Dr. Natalie, do you want to sum up here?
Well, I don't think I need to sum up. I think, there are a lot of really good points when it comes to work-life balance. And I don't think we really know where it's going to go. But I think we have a lot of tools at our disposal to improve our communication, to improve how we work with talent, and to then bring it all together. I was inspired when Diane was saying earlier, she bought books to write in, notebooks. And I think we can use ChatGPT, for example, the same way. Use it as an idea and then print it out, copy it, and write yourself. So there's always a human factor, and in talent management, when we deal with expats, when we give feedback, we need to look at the other person in a respectful manner as an individual with personal and professional needs. And the question is, how far do we take that? I love Melissa. Her answer was like, yeah, for a month, and then I'll go back. So we would have to ask somebody else who likes to go fishing as well, if they want to stay longer. But you need to take all of those things into account. We can't just, this one size fits all doesn't work anymore. And I think that's the key that we all need to understand. And I think Paul knows that very well, because he wrote his 17th book on that part.
Annalisa, so what's the role of values in this discussion here?
Yeah, unmute. It's been really fascinating because just to hear about AI and relocation, as Paul said, so many things going on in this conversation. I find it remarkable, really, that in talking about relocation, we're so connected now that that isn't being used, that that somehow people are being sent abroad and forgotten about. Kind of beggars belief when we live in a really like such a connected world.
Yeah,
So,
just look at this.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what's going on there? Why aren't those people being valued enough to be to just keep that communication, that thread going, and to think about where they're going to be when they come back, to have that joined up thinking. I think just, the value of people and how that plays out in organizations. There's been a lot of talk in this conversation that shows that they're not being valued. And Stephen was talking about the cost of retraining people, that people are your biggest asset and your biggest cost. And yet leaders tend not to attend to those things in their organization that are huge, that are big costs. In other words, if they were to attend to harmony in the workplace, they would have less conflict, they would have fewer sickness absences, they would have fewer tribunals, they would have fewer people leaving that they would have to pay to train and replace and have other people cover. If you think about how much that adds up to annually in an organization, wages could go up. You could put more money into the well-being of the people working for you. And so it's really raising awareness that this stuff is not, when we talk about these things, it's not fluffy stuff. It really is affecting the bottom line, and leaders could make their jobs a lot easier and profit, as I say, profit with less pain if they attended to these things. And it seems so simple, but why are they not doing it?
Ute, this joie de vivre.
Annalisa just said one of the crucial words in that context. It's all about awareness. So all these companies, of course, they know in theory that they should invest, that they should take care of their talent and stuff. But at the end of the day, are they aware of it in their daily life, in their daily grind? Probably not. I think that's the issue. It's the same with the Lebensfreude. Of course, it's obvious. Nobody will tell you, no, I don't want to be happy in my life. But what are they doing for it in their daily life? What are the little details they actually can do to better the situation, be it for their talent in that situation, retaining talent, or for themselves, for their own joy of life? So, as I said, it's all about awareness, and this doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey. So you have to make it aware to yourself and to others again and again each day. So yes, it's about awareness, and we all that we actually seem to be aware of this issue will be the ones to inspire people we meet like we are meeting today, then meeting people in our bubble, in our life, to go that way. So it's really baby steps probably, but each big journey starts with the first step anyway.
Diane, I want to change the subject a little bit to media presence and training staff, people to respect the camera and prepare to be on camera. And I'm talking about Microsoft Teams or a Zoom meeting where some people are not camera ready, almost by design. Is that a younger generation thing, or is it just my take?
Oh, it's not a younger generation thing, and it's a topic unto itself, and I think it's also something that's evolved from when we first jumped in the Zoom pool. You know, when COVID hit, it was, what do I do? Where's the lights? How do I look? This and that. It depends, like anything else. When you're going to a meeting, How do you want to be perceived? It's as simple as that. And, you know, and working from your bed or in your bedroom, or, you know, if you, I mean, look at the screen. Everyone has a different background. You look at different people, different backgrounds. Steve is extremely comfortable being in this conversation. It's like we're his family right now, because he's welcoming us into his home with no business aspect involved. Look how casual he is. Steve, I'm going to pick on you right now. Look how casual he's laying back. You know, how come men do that, by the way? Can I just be general? My husband, he sprawls out and lays all over things. This is women, take notice. We're all like, you know, cover. You know what I'm saying? You all know.
Well, if
You
I
know
sit
what
like
I'm saying, girls. And the men are like,
no, but Diane, if I sit like this, my huge head is just taking up the whole
I
screen.
love your face. Look at that gorgeous. Now, this would be if Steve wanted to be taken very seriously and make a point across in a meeting. That would be his face.
Oh no,
the
I would get
closer
I would
you
get
are.
up closer like this. Yeah.
Oh,
there's
no,
nothing to do,
I'm
yeah.
scared of you right now. So you get back. All right. But everybody has different things. We also like, you know, we don't want to be logoed to death and have branding in our face. We want it to be discreet, and because the purpose is to focus on the person, isn't it? You know, you don't want anything to distract. I mean, and so I think that would be it in my 2 cents, because I have to jump off on at 10:30. But what a great conversation. And I just want a quick observation that I personally had with an HR situation is my husband's son. And I was so proud of myself for keeping my mouth shut and observing this behavior. 37, project manager, engineer company, doing fine, 1,200 people in the company. Boss needs somebody in Dallas. They're based in Phoenix. Approaches him and he's up for a promotion. So his promotion didn't come, but the ask to go to Dallas did. And before he answered yes, the CEO announced his acceptance of it in front of the company. So yeah, all you HR people are like, oh, good one. And so a lot of things were wrong with this case study, but so his father and I were, well, what are you doing? Well, I went, you know, plus he's jumping into a quagmire to fix something. So, you know, fast forward, the end of the story is, in the meanwhile, he's now at a new job. But he said to us, he said, work-life balance. He said, I don't want to be back and forth commuting Monday to Thursday. I don't want to do that. There were no perks. There was no benefits. And I don't want to travel. And of course, we're thinking, well, you're young, it's 6 months. You know, if you do a good job, what could happen? The CEO chose you. This was a generational thing. It was a generational thing. I can tell you right now, if it were me, I'd have been, oh, I can fix that quagmire, because that's the boomers, isn't it? It's not the way they think. So maybe they're smarter than we are. Anyway, everyone, I do have to jump off. It was great to be here. Great to see all of you. And I'd let you know, we'll connect. And Ed, thank you so much. And Ed, ditch the giraffe. We'll have a conversation. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Diane.
Okay, goodbye. Out the window. Props. We can always change the props. It's like that.
The giraffe. I like the giraffe.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much.
I think the giraffe is.
I'll bring it back.
Yeah.
I like it too.
So the San Diego Zoo has a wild animal park they call Safari or something or other. It's about an hour north of where I am right now. And so Joanne and I go there a lot because we like to get up close and feed the giraffes. So, and I like the red wall, but.
Right, okay, there was a story there, Ed. Put the giraffe back.
I will do what you say, Annalisa. There we go.
Thank you.
It's right above this book that I read called Stanley Tucci. you know, and,
I love Stanley Tucci too.
yeah, a lot. That show that he did, you know, and they're not doing it anymore. CNN didn't want to pay him $1 million to do it. It was a great show. And so I'm going back to Italy because of that. So, Paul Falcone, what's next? How long are you going to be in Chicago?
Probably till end of August. So our kids are out here, so we come and visit. We spend some time out here. We wanted to spend the summer, so it's good. It's good. It's a fun time. This is the nicest weather in the country, Ed. Everything else is either burning, flooding, freezing, or whatever. Midwest is doing well, so Chicago's got some nice weather right now.
So Melissa, thank you so much. We want you to come back and do more when you have time. And it's great to see you. And send us more video of you fishing.
Next time I'll have to send you a video of me catching one.
Oh, the experience. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, great.
Have fun.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sandrine, someday we're going to do a meeting in Dubai, and I'm very fortunate to on May 9 be in London live, the first live meeting in more than 3 years. And I was the guest of HSBC, the global bank. They underwrote my trip, and we staged a meeting there. And they used the occasion to announce a suite of new services aimed for the ultra high net worth group around the world and top tier corporate executives. And the gentleman that was my direct link was a speaker, of course, and his order, I guess, or the charge he was given by the top level in the bank was to be the global bank for high net worth people who are on the move from country to country. And he calls it the India Channel, okay, a flow of high-tech talent who happen to come from India, who are in top-level jobs. I think of Microsoft or Google and a few others. And there's a lot of them, apparently. And so they wanted to use our meeting in London to broadcast and to announce their suite of services. And I was just notified about a week ago that they invited me to come back and do Global London 2.0. And that's going to be in late September, live. And part of it will be broadcast, not all of it. But so more on that later. And now I'm in talks also to do that kind of an event in different places. And Dubai was mentioned as a possible location. So more on that later.
Yeah.
I don't know when.
In the winter, come in the winter.
In the winter.
Come in the summer. That's
Right.
101. And talking of high net worth individuals, I was doing a presentation on company practices in the region. And for the second year in a row, the UAE has gotten over 4,500 new ultra high net worth people. So people who have more than, like, I don't know, tens or hundreds of millions in cash at their disposal. I'm not talking even the total value of their assets, just the extra cash that would be that moved to the UAE. Last year, UAE was #1 in the world. This year, Australia is planned to receive a few hundred more than UAE, and UAE is #2, still making it by far the largest welcoming. So we have some Russians, and I'm not gonna comment more than that. But we also have people coming from all over the world. So if your client is targeting that, and the Saudis love to come to Dubai for fun, so it's better to do it here than in Saudi Arabia. More things to do.
Yeah, okay. And by the way, we're going to, on that same trip in September, we're going to do Global Paris and most likely Global Switzerland on the same trip. Yeah, so more about that, and maybe Global Germany. We'll finally get to do that. So Ute, I'm thinking that Berlin would be a good place, as well as perhaps Hamburg or perhaps Cologne. There's so many good places. And
Yes, for sure.
let's stay in touch about all that. So thank you all for being on Global TV again. And please come back. Paul, we'll see you in a couple of weeks at the next one, and more about all that later. Thank you for being on the show. I loved it.
Thank you.
Thank
I
Thanks,
did-
Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
It was
Thank
great
you.
seeing everybody.
Bye,
I
everybody.
Thank you for
Have a
providing
great
the
day.
didn't have to
platform for
talk
us.
so
See you.
much. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.